Hey everyone, welcome to week 4 of our crafting packets for November for adults. This is our last craft for the fall, so be on the lookout for our Christmas packets that are going to come out soon. This craft bag could still be available here at the library. If you haven't gotten your November bag yet, give us a call and see if we have any left. We'd be happy to give you one, and then you can go back immediately and all of the videos have already been released and you can start crafting. We're here to take you step by step through this week's craft. And if you need to pause the video, go for it. Take some time to do the different steps of the project. If you have questions, give us a call, pop by and ask us, or take a look at the demonstration one that we will have available in our display case upstairs if you need to look at something a little closer to figure it out. If you find you need any supplies, any more glue, or you need to borrow some scissors, give us a call. We'd be happy to supply those as well. Let's get started. Today we're going to be making, I'm so very excited about this, we're going to be making a recycled paper pumpkin. Did you know that that's what you were going to make with all this weird supplies in your bag? We're going to turn the paper, the yarn, the block in there into this really cool yarn pumpkin. I've been seeing these all over the internet as like home decor for fall this year. And I thought we probably needed to make one here at the library, and what could we do with stuff we already have in order to make this happen? And we have a ton of yarn, and we also get this packing paper that you'll see in a minute in our book shipments every month. When we get our books, the box is always packed with that paper for cushioning, and I thought, all right, we got to use this. So I am very proud to tell you that I made this up on my own. I didn't steal it from Pinterest. I steal most things from Pinterest, but this I did not. And I think I have to take this necklace off because it's hitting the table. Okay, we're clank free now. All right, so if you're curious as to how we got from paper to pumpkin, stay tuned. So let's go over what's in your bag and then we'll get started. First, I have something that I've done ahead of time. You will get to watch me do this in a segment that I filmed before this video, but for the purposes of right now, it's already done, but I will show you how to do it. So carefully pull out your dark brown yarn, and I have already braided mine, but you should have 9 strands of a darker cream or tan yarn in your packet. We have a lot of different yarn. Like I said, we used what we had. So your blend might be a little different than mine and also different from your neighbors, but it'll all work out the same. See in the example, it's a bit tan. Your colors should look a bit more like this. So I saved this for myself because we ran out of the nice stuff. But I do kind of like the blend of color here, and it's still brown and fallish, so I think it'll look good. Anyway, I'll show you how to get from a mass of strands to braid in a little while, but you should have a packet of that in your bag. We also have this adorable thing, which is duct tape, and then you should have 4 pieces, I think, of just Scotch tape that we put on this little sticker paper. This is how we give you guys our stickers. We save our sticker sheets and then we can give you tape and stuff. I think it's fabulously recycled and I love that. So you have a piece of duct tape and 4 regular tapes. You should also have a piece of, I think yours is probably green. It could be a different color, but it should be a drastically different color than the cream and browns. This is like a scrap piece of thread that's not a mistake. It is there on purpose. I'm also very excited about how I decided to use this. So I'm just really excited about this craft. You should have a foam paintbrush. We're gonna use that to paint our stem. Here is the brown packing paper. You should have 2 sections of it in your packet. And I'm gonna unfold this, but we're gonna turn the sound off so it's not annoying. There we go, we have 2 papers. We're saving this now as our scrap paper, paper to paint on, and paper to make pumpkins with. So you should have 2 of these. They don't have to be exactly the same size, and they don't have to be exactly perfect because we're gonna scrunch it up and manipulate it to be the form for our pumpkin anyway. I gave you a paper towel. This will help us distress our pumpkin stem. You should have a block, which is gonna be your pumpkin stem. This, I didn't know this, maybe you don't either. At Hobby Lobby, they have dowel rods that are rectangles that are squared off at the edges. I was just gonna get a dowel rod and put a round stem in there, but then I found these and thought they looked amazing. So we also have a saw here at the library, a miter box saw, not like a, what do you call the other ones? I don't do that stuff. You know, a saw. Anyway, I cut these for you. Okay, now be careful because inside is a whole lot of yarn. Looks like spaghetti. Now pull this out as gently and neatly as you can. The knot, hopefully, is towards the end of your bag here, and you can just kind of carefully start pulling it out in a nice bundle. It is not important that every strand is separate and neat and tidy, but you don't want big knots in your yarn. And there's a lot of it. So sorry, I forget, I can look. There should be 8 yards of this in your bag, so it just never ends. So here is all 8 yards, and yes, I cut all 8 yards, 9 strands for every bag. That's a lot of strands. And so you're gonna wanna put this aside gently. Don't scrumble it all up so that it's a mess. And set this aside. Keep track of your knot if you can, because that'll be a good, oops, do as I say, not as I do. That'll be a good starting point. Also, you should have a little cup of this brown paint. I'm also very excited to use this paint. This is Burnt Umber by Apple Barrel. I'm very excited to use this. It is not the color I used for my demo one, so I'm hoping it's even nicer and looks more even like real wood. So very excited to use this. You have just a bit because it's just this tiny little bit that we're gonna paint. Also, go find your week 2 bag and get the glue out of there because we are going to use this glue. If you've run out of glue, let us know. We'll give you some more glue. If you have other glue at home, you're welcome to use that. You don't need fancy glue. This is tacky glue, but Elmer's glue will work. I like tacky glue because it dries a little faster. It's a little thicker and stickier, but Elmer's glue will do the job. I think we're ready to go. And the first thing we're going to do is grab our wooden block and our paintbrush and our burnt umber paint, and we are going to paint the stem for our pumpkin. That way it can dry while we're making the rest of it. So I have a scrap piece of paper here that I'm gonna let it dry on, and that's gonna be what I paint on. And so I'm gonna choose which side I want to be the top. I think this one's a little squarer, and so I'll hold it down here and I'll paint up here. And I'm not even gonna paint the whole thing. You can see underneath my pumpkin, I didn't paint the bottom, because I'm not gonna see that. It's gonna sit like this on my shelf or my mantle or, you know, my kitchen window, and you're not gonna see the bottom. If you'd like to paint the whole thing, by all means. I am not going to. So carefully open your paint, dip your foam brush in. This foam brush is nice. You can save it after this project. You can wash it and then reuse it. And I'm just gonna dip into that paint. And then, like I said, I'm gonna hold the side I don't care about. And we're just gonna throw some on there. Squeeze the paint out of that brush. We don't need very much, that's why there's not very much in your little container. Now I didn't do a perfect job because we're gonna grab our napkin and I am gonna scrunch him up a little bit so that he's like a little wad. And then I'm gonna take this paper towel and I'm gonna wipe off a lot of the paint that's here to help give it that wood look. So I'm just gonna wipe off some of that paint, move to a clean section of my towel, wipe some more off. This will also make it a little faster to dry. Keep moving to clean sections. Just brush that off a little bit, give it that wood look. You can see some of the natural color underneath. And there you have it. I have painted my, oh my gosh, it's so cool. It does look like wood. Way to go, YouTube. Thanks for your recommendation. So Burnt Umber by Apple Barrel if you're interested in doing this at home. So there you go. Set this aside to dry. Wash your paintbrush so you could use it again at home for another project. And I don't know, if there's enough to save, you could save your burnt umber, but I don't think there probably is. Now we're gonna work on the base of our pumpkin. In order to get this donut shape that we're gonna end up wrapping our yarn around, we're gonna grab one of our sheets of packing paper and scrunch it up to look like a snake. So here I have one of my papers, and I will show you what it's gonna look like as a snake. So I'm gonna do it because it's loud, and then I'll come back and talk to you. After it's scrunched, you can give it a little twist. Be careful not to tear the paper. You just want it to be kind of in a, like a, you know, a snake shape. And then we're gonna coil it up to be our first layer of our donut. Just like that. Now you can manipulate it a little bit so that there's a hole inside. The donut hole portion is big enough that you think you can feed and reach in and grab the yarn we're about to cover it in. So if you can see, I've got like a little bit of a hole in there, not too big, not too small, and I'm still holding on to the end that's loose. So I'm gonna grab a piece of my actual Scotch tape from the little packet we provided. You're welcome to use your own tape too if you have it at home. And then I'm just gonna gently tack down the loose ends here. So now I'm pretty confident my donut is gonna stay together while I work with it. I'm gonna set it aside and do the same thing with my other paper. All right, I have another coil with a medium-sized hole in the middle, and I'm gonna tape the end shut. Now you should have 2 rings, and we're gonna place them on top of each other. And this, our double-decker donut, is gonna be the middle, the base of our pumpkin. Here's where you're gonna need some elbow grease. You're gonna find that pile of yarn from your bag. Like I said, try not to get it all crinkled up. If you have pets in the house, you're probably gonna end up with some pet hair on your pumpkin, so be prepared to do a little lint rolling afterwards if you need to. So if you're ready to go and you've got a pretty clean area to start your threading process, we are gonna send the knot end of our big chunk of yarn up through the bottom of our double-decker donut holes here. So I'm gonna send it through the bottom and poke it through the other end. You can squish them together a little bit if you need to reach in. Just try not to flatten the pumpkin so much in this process that it gets too thin like a pancake. So out comes my tail, and then I'm gonna poke through those strands so that I have a little opening, and then I'm gonna reach over and grab the rest of my yarn and send it through there. This is gonna be a long process. Keep your donuts together. Pull that yarn through. And then you can cinch it up and it'll be like a knot to hold it in place. When you end up, try to end so that the knot is on the inside of your pumpkin. So you might need to twist your strands so that that knot, those extra bits, are inside the donut hole. All right, now you're ready for the fun part. And we're gonna start wrapping the entire double-decker donut in yarn. So what you're gonna wanna do is kind of look when you're wrapping and make sure that your strands are spread out nice. And you're gonna wanna cover as much ground as you can. The reason I gave you 9 strands at a time is because this process goes a little faster that way. You could definitely just take 1 strand and wrap and wrap and wrap and get the same job done, but I found that this process worked a little better. Also, if you're at the store shopping and you find a really bulky, chunky yarn, you might get away with 1 strand and get to go as quickly. But we mostly had this regular, which they call worsted weight or size 4 yarn. So this is how I worked around the fact that we didn't have any bulky yarn. So you're gonna spread your strands out and lay them next to the one you just made. Poke through the middle of the donut hole until you can see it there. And then I'm gonna grab it and pull all the way through. Pull everything out. And we're gonna keep repeating this process, wrapping, sending that remainder of the thread through the donut hole until we get all the way around. And you'll have an opportunity when you've gotten to the other side to fill in any bare spots that you might see. You can also kind of manipulate your strands as you go to close any gaps. So keep wrapping and I'll see you at the end. Like I said, during this process, try not to squish your pumpkin too much so that you lose that shape, but it can be squished a little bit. Also, the more you wrap, the easier it'll get to pull the strands through. All right, I have made it all the way around my pumpkin, and now I can look for any bare spots that I might have that I might want to go over, like this one right here. I might want to use some of my leftover thread to go through there. And I can go rearrange some of my threads. I think I might have a bare spot over here. So I'll hit that one. And there you are. So once you're happy with your pumpkin, we're ready to snug up this extra yarn, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, so now we're going to need that scrap piece of yarn that we gave you in, I think, the green color. We're going to grab that, and we're going to trim off our extras. Now, I did cut these by hand, so they're not all perfectly even, as you can see. And so I'm just going to cut a length off to work with. It's going to likely get cut even shorter than this, but I'm going to start here. So I'm going to cut, I don't know if this is 7, 8 inches right here. It's kind of where my shortest strand was. So now I have this, and I'm going to take my scrap yarn, fold it in half like this, and I'm going to poke the folded edge, the folded part, underneath a few strands of this pumpkin yarn on the inside. So I'm going to go on the inside of the pumpkin and just push that folded bit underneath some strands like that. And then we'll pull this out a little bit. Don't pull it out all the way. And we can open up that loop, and I can grab that yarn, the extra yarn that we have, and send it through that loop like this. We're essentially making like a needle so that I can pull this yarn, and now I can guide it underneath that bundle and out the other end like that. So now it is woven underneath some extra threads, and I can cut it even shorter. So now I'm going to cut my yarn close to where I wove it under those threads in there, but not directly on top, and don't cut any of the threads that are actually attached to your pumpkin. So I'm going to give myself just a little tuft like that. So now it looks like that in there. We're going to put a bunch of glue and our stem in there, so I'm not worried about that little puff right there. Now it's time to braid. You should have that other 9-strand bundle in your packet, and we're going to turn it into this. So take it away, Paige from the big room. So this is the part of the video where we're going to braid the darker colored string that you got in your packets. So it should look like a bundle like this. Mine is very dark, and that's just because I used the leftovers. You might have a blend of colors in your packet, so use whatever the darker bundle is, and we should have 9 strands, and we're going to separate this bundle into sections of 3, so you should have 3 strands in each section, and make sure to pull it out of your packet nice and gently so that it gets as detangled as possible. And I've included a little duct tape so that you can, on some surface you don't care about because you don't want to put this on a nice thing, but if you have a surface in your home, like a table or something that you can anchor your braiding work to, that's what this duct tape is for. So I'm going to peel it off here, and I'm actually not even going to use the whole thing. I'm going to rip it in half and just use a little bit and get it secured to my table here. I needed kind of a big space to do this. And then we can separate 3 strands. It doesn't matter which colors go. As you can see, we need a little room. And 3 more, and then another 3. You can mix them up however you like. Okay, so here's how I'm gonna braid this. I'm gonna do it kind of like usual, and I'm gonna take an outside piece and move it to the middle, and take the next outside piece and move that to the middle. Outside piece to the middle, outside piece to the middle, and we're gonna alternate. And then as you can see, my strands are getting tangled at the bottom here. So then I'm just gonna pull one of them, one section of 3, until it comes all the way free. And I'm back in business. And I can keep braiding, wait till it gets a little bit tangled, and then I can just slide out one of those sections. And the farther away you get, the easier it will be. So just make sure you've got a nice big area to accomplish this, and then just every so often yank out one of the strands so that it all untangles again. All right, I'll see you at the end. When you're all done, you can simply tie a knot. You see I have a couple of uneven ends here, so I stopped before I got to the end of the shortest bit there. And I'm just gonna tie a simple knot, because we don't even need this knot to really function. It's just gonna be here to hold our braid in place for the rest of the craft that we're gonna make. We're gonna tie a new knot when we actually use this in the craft. So we have this very big long braid, and we're ready to use it in our project. If you don't want to braid, if you don't like to braid, if this is too long to braid, you don't have to. You can use it just as a bundle of threads, just like we used to wrap the main part of the pumpkin. So that's up to you. If you don't want to braid it, you could try twisting the cord while you wind it around your pumpkin if you'd rather do that. You can be creative if braiding is just not your thing. Once you've got your braid, we're going to do the same thing and attach our braid to the pumpkin the same way we sort of fastened off our yarn in here. And I'm going to use my scrap yarn, fold it in half, pretty even, doesn't have to be perfect, and I'm going to push this through some strands. I'm going to choose to go in on the opposite side, so I'm just going to sneak it under. Be careful. Like I said, there might be some pet hair attached to your pumpkin after you've done this project. So we sneak our little yarn in there under a few strands, open it up, and grab the knot end of one end of our braid, and then I can use that strand to help sneak it under all those strands. If you want to push it in with just your finger, that's fine too, but I'm really fond of this trick. So then I'm gonna just hide the knot in there. See how it's been secured underneath those strands, and the knot is just hiding down here at the bottom. And now I can begin wrapping this in the same fashion that I did the white string, except I'm not going to do it as densely. I'm going to skip around and just cut my pumpkin into sections for those pumpkin ridges. My tail started popping out again, but I can just stuff him back down in there. And now I have my pumpkin ridges. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use my scrap thread one more time, fold in half. I'm gonna pick a section of strands nearby to where I ended, and I'm gonna send the rest of my braid through so I have something to attach it to, and then I will cut it off. All right, I found a couple strands to hide my braid, and now I'm gonna cut it off pretty close there. I'm gonna give myself just a little bit of a tuft, like that. He's in there, he's just hanging out. I'm not worried about them. I'm gonna poke them down in there. You can see all the ends out the other side that I'm not worried about. And now we can secure everything with our stem, which is probably dry by now. Let's see before I get too excited about it here. Mostly dry. You might want to give yours a minute or two to be actually dry, but I'll go ahead here. Grab your glue from week 2. Came in a little container like this, and came with a paintbrush too. I don't have my paintbrush because I forgot that, so get your paintbrush or a popsicle stick or a toothpick or a cotton swab, whatever you want to apply your glue. You know what? I'm gonna use my fingers. Who am I kidding? I do this all the time. So what you wanna do, you don't have to feel obligated to use your fingers, but we're gonna take the unfinished end here, the part that's gonna go in the pumpkin, and I'm gonna cover it in glue. And yep, just gonna use my fingers because I don't feel like getting up. And just coat that with glue. I'm not actually gonna put any on the very bottom because I don't want it to get glued to my table. Now, what we're also going to do, set that aside for just a minute, is we're gonna put more glue inside our pumpkin right there. So I'm gonna take some and just put a glob right inside the center of our double-decker donut pumpkin. So we got some glue in there. I got a bunch of glue on the stick. I think I'm gonna go a little heavier on the glue. We want it to catch all of those loose ends so that we can keep this lovely fall decoration for years to come. At least that's how I do it in my house. I just keep putting up the same stuff, and it just has character and tradition, and I love it. All right, so if you're a normal person, you'll go wash your hands. If you're me, you'll just rub it in and keep on trucking. Okay, so take your stem, gluey side down, and we're just gonna make sure everything is the way we like it, and nestle that gluey stem right down in the center of your pumpkin. Now this is where you get to decide how much stem you want to leave exposed. If you want a taller stem on your pumpkin, you can leave it sit taller, or you can really stuff it down in there and give yourself a little stem. There you can see my ends and my stem are poking at the bottom. If you want to wait till this dries, you could trim these extra loose ends up even more, but I would wait until it dries. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on a piece of paper so that I don't have any chance of adhering it to my table. And I'm going to let this dry. And our pumpkin is still a little malleable, so we can move it around. And now we have 2 pumpkins. See, yours might look a little more like this if you got more of the tan yarn, or maybe it looks a little more like this if you got some of the brown yarn. You could do this with all sorts of colors. I thought it would be fun to do a purple one with like black and green braids for like Halloween or something. Maybe I'll do that next year. And maybe with like a black stem. I just get so many ideas. There's just too little time. So yeah, there you go. There you have your pumpkin. You can see the one that I made today ended up a little bigger than this one. Maybe I didn't squish it as much. It's also a little bit hard to do this for the camera. It's easier to do when I don't have anything to worry about. So yeah, depending on what kind of paper you have, maybe you have some newspaper at home. If you want some packing paper, you want to make a whole bunch of these, let us know and we can save you our packing paper because we get a whole shipment every month and we're saving it. So I'm very excited about this project. I hope you really liked it. Please send us pictures of anything that you've made. We would love to see them and know that you're out there crafting and having a good time. Go check out last week's craft if you haven't done that one yet. We've got a craft from 2 weeks ago, 4 in total that you can watch. Like I said, come ask us if we have a craft bag left over that you can nab up and start doing these crafts, or stay tuned for the holidays because we've got more crafts coming. Check out all of our other cool content here on YouTube. We've got podcasts, and if you're watching this and it's November, check out our mug-tastic meals. Last year, we did a whole Thanksgiving feast in a mug. Well, mostly, and an air fryer. Anyway, that video was a lot of fun to film, and it was something we tried to offer to the community when Thanksgivings were mostly happening at home. So if you want something funny to watch this Thanksgiving, check out mug-tastic meals. Stay tuned for what we have planned for December, and we'll see you in another video very soon. Bye. Hey everyone, welcome to week 4. because this is how we give you guys our whatchajigs. You know, what are these called? This is burnt sienna, I think. Is that what this is called? Burnt sienna? Oh, we're so excited about it. It's the paint all the YouTubers use for their wood staining. Burnt umber, that's what it is.